Okay, we're going to complete our study of chamber music with a saxophone quartet. This has gained a lot of popularity in recent years. It's not often that you see a relatively new instrument take off with this much passion, but people that are really into this kind of saxophone playing really are into it. And the piece we're going to look at today by Francaix is one of the heavyweights. It's a great piece and is considered standard literature from most of the saxophone quartets out there. He first caught the attention of a music publisher when they noticed some of his pieces come across their desk, and he took lessons in composition and studied with the composition teacher named Nadia Boulanger. She is probably one of the best composition teachers that you've never heard of. A lot of the composers of the early 20th century, including Igor Stravinsky, Aaron Copland, Leonard Bernstein, some of these folks studied with her, and a lot of people have studied with students of hers. And she has had a huge impact on the world of modern music. So Francaix is from France, go figure that. And he was a virtuoso pianist. He even premiered some of his own concertos. He wrote for every imaginable combination of instruments, even writing film scores. He scored 10 films amongst all the other things that he did. He decided for this particular piece to use a pretty standard instrumentation for saxophone quartet. So what you're going to hear is the soprano, alto, tenor, and baritone saxophones. That's just like the standard voicings in a choir. And this is the instrumental version of a choir in some regards. The saxophone is a transposing instrument, and the different lengths of them put them in different keys. The two most common keys for modern saxophones are B flat and E flat. So if you play alto saxophone, that's the one most people know of, that's an E flat instrument. So if you play a C on your E flat alto, you're going to get an E flat on the piano. The baritone saxophone is the same way. It's an E flat, sounds an octave lower. So it sounds in the bass clef, but it's written in treble clef. Tenor saxophone is in between those two. That one's most commonly heard in jazz music. And that one is in B flat, just like a trumpet or a clarinet. And then there's the smaller one, the soprano saxophone, and that one is also in the key of B flat. These are considered woodwind instruments. Saxophones were created around 1841 by a Belgian named Adolphe Sax. Go figure that out. They are considered woodwinds even though they're mostly made of brass. The reason they're considered woodwinds is because the way the sound is made is through a vibrating reed. That's one of the basic things about how all instruments produce sound. Something has to vibrate. In this case, the reed is what vibrates, so that's why it's considered a woodwind instrument. The popularity of the saxophone, it didn't really catch on until the military bands decided to start using it. It's got it can be a very loud sound, it can be heard a long way away, and it's extremely portable. Which, for a military band, that's important because they march a lot and do parades and play for troops, and that's where it first found its foothold. You're going to hear some extreme registers. You hear the baritone saxophone go up pretty high and go pretty low, and then you're going to hear the soprano saxophone go up to really high notes. These top notes in the register, that's above the third ledger line, above the treble clef staff, we call that the altissimo register. And there are separate fingerings for those and special techniques to get up and play that high. The soprano is actually not the smallest saxophone. There is one even smaller called the sopranino, and there's one even smaller than that called the soprillo. And they're about this long, and I don't know, it sounds like a mouse playing a saxophone or something. They're just tiny. They get much bigger too. There's the bass saxophone and the contrabass saxophone and the sub-contrabass saxophone. They get kind of silly at that point. Okay, here is your introduction to the saxophone quartet. And this is a student recital from University of Texas, I believe. So they can get quite a wide variety of dynamics and styles with these very wide range from the soprano top all the way down to the bottom of the bari. Okay, hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about chamber music. Next week we'll start looking at film music.